Em 5 segundos, mais uma transmissão de conhecimento do Centro Universitário Internacional Uninter.
Olá, boa noite a todas e todos. É grande
Hello,
prazer
everyone. Good
estar
evening.
aqui
It's a
com
pleasure
vocês.
to be here
Meu
with
nome
you
é Jason
today.
Diet,
My
eu
name is
sou
Jason Diet.
vice-presidente
I'm the
do
Vice
Global Hub da
President
Uninter
of Uninter
e
Global
estou
Hub,
aqui com
and I'm
alguns
here
convidados
with
de
several
3 países
guests
diferentes.
from
Eu
three
vou
different
deixá-los
countries.
se apresentarem.
I'm going to allow
Isso
them to
faz
introduce
parte,
themselves
né,
because
da
that's
vida
part
dos
of
empreendedores,
the life
fazer
of
o elevator pitch.
entrepreneurs, of doing
Esse
their
evento
elevator
é
pitch. So
sobre
this
inovação,
event
centros
is
de
about
inovação e empreendedorismo
innovation and
e o
entrepreneurship
impacto de
and the impact
e esses
of
centros na economia
universities and
e,
these
claro, com estudantes
centers
também. Então, a gente
in the
agradece a
economy
participação e a
with the students, of
presença
course. So we'd
dos
like to thank you,
convidados e também
thank the
da
participation
plateia.
of our guests and
Esse
also
evento a gente
our
está
audience. So
transmitindo
this
de
event,
duas formas. Tem o canal
we are
principal do Grupo
broadcasting
Inter,
in
ele está
our
transmitindo em
Uninter
português,
Group main
e
channel
o
in
canal do Global
Portuguese
Hub,
and the
ele
Global
está
Hub
transmitindo
channel,
em
who
inglês.
is
Então, dá para
broadcasting it
você
in
ir no
English.
seu
So
browser,
on your
trocar de um
browser,
para o
you
outro,
can
se
switch
você só
from one
quiser
channel to the
escutar em
other
português
if
uma
you want to
parte
listen in
ou
Portuguese
ouvir
part
em
of it,
inglês.
and then or
Então,
listen it to
o formato
in
típico
English. So
desses talking
the
business aí de
typical
abertura, uma
format of a
conversa,
talking business is
eu
to
com o
start with a
convidado e com todos.
conversation, me with a
Mas eu acho que
guest,
vai ser bem mais
one-on-one, but
dinâmico,
I think it's going
desde
to
tem
be more
pontos de vista
dynamic
de Colômbia, dos
to
Estados Unidos, do
have the different
Brasil,
point of views of
também
Colombia,
aquilo que a
US,
gente
and
fazer esse
Brazil,
formato
and it's
de
going to be
negócio o
a
tempo
lot
inteiro.
uh,
Então, para a plateia, vai ser a
better
segunda
to
parte
everyone if you do it all the
responder
time.
essas
And for
perguntas. Então,
the
fiquem
audience,
à
we're going to have a
vontade para
second
colocar no
broad
chat
for you to
as
ask
suas
questions.
perguntas.
Feel
Basta
free
fazer
to
uma
write your
vez
questions
e
on the
você
chat.
tem
You
algum
can do it
tempo
only once
para
because someone from our
procurando as
team
perguntas e
will be
organizando
going
para
over
que
these
faça o segundo
questions and
bloco.
organizing them
E
on
vai
the
ser muito
second
legal
block
com isso.
or
Para
for the
começar,
second block. So
eu agradeço
just
muito
to close, I'd like to thank
os
you all,
diretores das faculdades da
to
Uninter,
all
do Global
Uninter
Hub e do Hub
schools
Campus, pela
directors, Global
possibilidade de
Hub,
fazer esse tipo de
to
evento.
allow us to
E
do this
também
type of
será um grande
event. And
prazer
also it's going to be a
rever
pleasure
alguns dos
to
convidados e
to
participantes hoje. Então,
see again
como
some of the
disse, eu vou
guests
fazer
and
o
participants
segundo
from the Uninter Global
bloco e
Hub,
fazer
the
esse contato que é
entrepreneurship, and
bem
doing this
importante,
contact, which is very
também faz
important.
parte da
It's
vida, né?
also
Nunca
part of
para.
our life.
Então, eu
It's
estive com
never
a
stop,
Claire,
never
a
stop. So I
convidada
was
da
with
Faculdade
Claire,
Global
our
Hum.
Hub, do
guest, who is
Quer
here
University.
from the Case Western
Estarei com a Milton e com a
University. I'm going
Carolina,
to have a Milton and
quando eu vier para
Carolina
Colômbia,
when
e
I
com o
go
Rodrigo
to Colombia.
Amatea,
That will be soon, and with
pessoa
Rodrigo
de
Amatea,
inovação do Inter.
who is from the
Então,
Inspire
vamos
Innovation
direto
Hub.
aí às
So
perguntas. Eu gostaria de dar
we
umas
are going to go
boas-vindas
straight to the
gerais
questions. I'd
para
like
todo
to
mundo.
welcome you
Em
all.
cada pergunta,
And for
eu
every
vou
question,
começar com o
I'm going to
idioma da
start
pessoa
with
que
the
vai responder
language of the
primeiro,
person who is going
nesse
to be
primeiro bloco.
answering the question
So,
on
I'm going to
in the first
transition
block. So
now to English, and it is a great pleasure to welcome you, Claire Dorsett. She is the executive director of Case Western Reserve University's Sears Think Box, which she can describe better than I can. And what we're going to do here is I've given approximately a minute to each person to give their 1 minute pitch, right? So a 1 minute elevator pitch is called that because an elevator ride is usually not that long. You don't know how long you're going to have. And when you're trying to pitch your idea or yourself, you need to do that in a relatively quick period of time. So, Claire, it's a pleasure to have you. If you could introduce yourself and give your 1 minute pitch about the Think Box, that would be great.
Absolutely. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Jason, for the invitation. My name is Claire Dorsett. My background is in English and anthropology in undergrad, and then in learning design, innovation, and technology for my master's. And I have the great pleasure of working for Case Western Reserve University at Sears Think Box. We are the largest free and open access innovation center and makerspace in the US, and as far as we know, in the world. We welcome nearly 81,000 visits annually from over 5,500 unique users. Of those, roughly 80% are from our case community, but about 20% are from the general public. And what makes us very unique is that we do not charge for access to our space. We do not charge for machine use. We have a 2-floor maker space here with prototyping tools, a full wood shop, metal shop, and welding studio, or for training to use those tools. We also have a suite of entrepreneurial resources. We are in total 50,000 square feet. Don't ask me how many meters that is. I'm sorry, I don't know. But 7 full stories of themed supports to support innovation in all of its forms.
Thank you so much, Claire. And as I transition to Portuguese and move to Rodrigo, I am not an engineer, but a rough approximation is about a 10. So 50,000 square feet with about 5,000 square meters. Rodrigo, é grande prazer tê-lo aqui conosco. Então, por favor, seu
Rodrigo, it's a
pitch.
pleasure to have you here. Please, your elevator pitch. Good evening. Thank you for the invitation. I am a professor at INSPER and the head of the Innovation Hub Entrepreneurship, Paulo Cunha. We have innovation and entrepreneurship in the DNA of our school. We aim to form entrepreneurs. So we work with a series of initiatives or fostering entrepreneurship. Today, in our hub, we have a startup week where we promote meeting among founders from different schools, trying to create a combination of technology professionals with business professionals and law professionals. So they're the great areas of knowledge that we work with. And in different stages of the initial stage of a business. So we focus on early stage, and with initiatives like the Startup Week, we have a fellowship of innovation where students access collective mentorship, co-working, and we have an accelerator for startups that are already have recurrent revenues. We also have a meeting with the angel investors that are interested in investing in early stages of startups. And also, we like to watch the ecosystem with a research group, which is our Entrepreneurship and Innovation Observatory. So basically, that are the highlights of our work in our hub. So thank you, Rodrigo. And for those going to São Paulo, it's really impressive to see what INSPER is building and the space they have for entrepreneurs. Now, the most difficult part for me is Spanish, so I'd like to welcome Hamilton and Colombia, Hamilton and Carol. It's a pleasure to have you here. I don't know exactly who is gonna introduce your entrepreneurship hub, but usually the founders of a company has to define who's gonna present what. So please, and in a way of being quick and effective. So Hamilton and Carolina, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jason, and thank you for all. Thank you for this opportunity for us. And I am Hamilton Lopez. I'm the director at the Center for the Entrepreneurship. I am industrial designer, and my master is in creative design and innovation. And that's kind of topics for me. It's really, really funny to talk about the innovation and entrepreneurship. In the center, we create different programs for every stage for entrepreneurial process to develop the skills and capabilities necessary to drive the business ideas for the alumni, students, and general public, but not also for the entrepreneurs. We also seek the impact the entire ecosystem, for example, with different programs for mentors, professors, investors, and companies. We try to energize in the relationship between different stakeholders here in Colombia and Latin America and other parts of the world. And please, Carolina.
Sure. Thank you, Hamilton, and thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. I'm Carolina Rodriguez. I'm the community and partnership professional here at the Center for Entrepreneurship. I've been here for almost 6 years, working a lot with Hamilton and with the entire team. As Hamilton said, we see the entrepreneurship as an ecosystem. So that's why we focus a lot to give the value to entrepreneurs, mentors, investors, and not just here in Bogota or in Colombia, but also in different countries. Actually, we've been talking with Rodrigo at INSPER in Chile, Argentina, Estados Unidos, Mexico. So the idea is try to foster the entrepreneurship to make it global. It's the growth mindset that we try to give to communicate to our community. And yes, that's the idea that we have here at the value that we can give to the entire community.
Thank you both so much. Então, agora eu vou fazer uma pergunta primeiro para o Rodrigo do
So
INSPER.
now I'm going to ask a question to Rodrigo from INSPER, but there are a couple of questions that I will focus on the issue of how this center, the Innovation Hub, help entrepreneurs. So, Rodrigo, what is the most efficient way to help students and founders to get a very initial or early stage idea and help to transform it into a venture that can attract funding, make a product feasible and gain scale? Perfectly. Well, we like to look at very, very early stages, as we said before. And initially, we try to inspire our students to create business that are really original, unique, and projects that has a fit or a match with what they like to do. So initially, the idea is to discover the right problem that they need to solve. And at the same time, that they have a motivation to solve this problem. Having done that, we also try to create some sort of awareness of what the entrepreneurship process is, because you have to do the right thing at the right time. So the business has to be born with a vocation so we can be successful. When you think, okay, we are actually solving a relevant problem, it's important to the sector trying to enter, and I'm motivated, and I have knowledge to solve this problem. And I have knowledge to solve this problem. So also work with some parameters, like, for example, be born technologically up to date. So AI must be somehow embedded in this business model. You cannot be born as a business that is out of date, especially when you talk about technologies that are already available. There is an awareness also about the team of founders, the founder team. You don't need to know everything, but usually what we see at this stage, mainly when we are in a school like we are, that they want to start a venture with a colleague that are a lot like them. So I want to do business with my friend who has the same, at the end of the day, is at the same class, works with me, been to school with me. So they don't complement each other in terms of competences. So this understanding that sometimes you need someone who is different than you, it's important in this stage, especially in the early stage. We have a very interesting case of a startup. It's an AI startup that was founded by an engineering student, a genius, technology genius, with an economic student who is, how can I say, competent in terms of business development connections. So we think that this founder team is more powerful than one where you don't have a technology partner, or you have two technology partners that are trying to get into a business and relationship outlook. So when we manage to work with them in terms of these very early stage components, and they finally join our fellowship program, we start working with them, the client discovery. So they reach the top when they manage to find the client and validate their value proposal, having their first client. And we do believe that the best we can do in this process is to help them to find the first client and having the first real project with a real client. When we go to the next step, which is the accelerator, which is a little bit more advanced, then we start working the expansion of their client portfolio, because the value proposal validated with more clients, it's become more robust. It becomes more robust. It's not one single client. So basically, I try to be brief, but basically, these are the points that we work with in each stage with different tools. Maybe we can talk about the tools later on, but that's the logic behind it. Thank you, Rodrigo. Great.
And Carolina, I'm actually going to focus this question, which is about how hubs provide support for Milton, and then the next one for Carolina. And I'd be interested if you could address the same question, which is, how do you get from an idea to an actual venture, and what are the types of support that you provide to students? But if you could think of an example, right? So what's an example of a specific set of students, idea, and then you took it from idea phase, as a partner, or however you work with them, to kind of the next phase?
I think that I'm going to answer that.
Start with Milton, and I think Milton, it looks like you're on mute, so we couldn't hear you. And if you could take the specific example of one company or idea that you've worked with, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, I understand. We have an entrepreneur, venture idea, a really interesting venture idea with the name is Prami. That venture idea is small credits in the small towns here in Colombia, not the big towns, only the small towns, and the people like farmers, like these people. We try to reach a credit in the big bank. It's impossible here in Colombia, and this couple of entrepreneurs try to reach this idea in the small towns, and they have 3 years in the market, and the growth is amazing, because the confidence to people to reach this a small credit is not a big money. It's only a $2,000, $3,000. It's a minimal credit in Colombia. It's really important, this kind of, with technology, blockchain technology, and the confidence for the customers. That is an example for a venture idea here in Colombia, and they were in 3 or 4 programs in our university.
Fantastic. Thank you, Milton. So Claire, I'm going to ask you the same question, but if you could give it a bit of the flavor for Ohio, where you are, and it could be an area of strength for Case Western, but an example that kind of gives us also a sense of in what environment you're helping to support entrepreneurs as they try to go from idea stage to an actual venture and scaling.
Absolutely. So we, like my colleagues here, have a full entrepreneurial ecosystem at Case Western Reserve University. We don't operate in isolation. We are very fortunate to have strong partners in-house. The Veal Institute for Entrepreneurship, for example, and LaunchNet both supports our entrepreneurs alongside us. An example of this in actuality, we are on the Great Lake. We are on Lake Erie. Water is very important to us in our region. One of our startups currently in our incubator space is called Cleaner, CLEANR. They have created a nature-inspired biomimetic solution to remove microplastics from your wastewater from your washing machine. And they had the epiphany while here on campus that your laundry is actually the #1 source of microplastics for our wastewater. And they started to look into what does that mean. When they realized that this is in fact a problem, they actually set up a little filter, looked at it under a microscope and said, oh my gosh, look at all this gunk we pulled out. How would we solve this as engineers together? They turned to ThinkBox and they used the makerspace that I referenced earlier. That is part of the ecosystem of tools as well. So they started with a 3D printed model, a minimum viable product, and that's where we encourage folks to start. Get your idea into the real world, into a physical form that you can show other people. And then iterate, iterate, iterate. So they grew from there through our resources and our mentors, talk to real audiences, both the end consumer and folks working on washing machines themselves, et cetera, to understand what people needed. So again, echoing some of my colleagues here, starting with a solution that meets a real problem and not starting with a solution and then looking for a problem. They knew this was an issue in the world. And they created that minimum viable product, that first prototype, and they built from there. They learned along the way. They have many, many versions of this. And they tapped into the network that we have here. They tapped into the resources we have here. Again, it's interdisciplinary. You need people who don't think like you do. You need people who have completely different perspectives, who can poke holes in your idea and then come back with more excitement to help you get to that next step.
Fantastic. Thank you, Claire. I'm going to switch to Portuguese and ask this question actually I'll keep it in English because I'm going to ask this of Hamilton and Carolina, and I said that this one would go to Carolina. So Carolina, the question is about building networks. So you could build networks of mentors, you have to build investors and partners. Rodrigo, I believe, mentioned that you don't always want the same skill sets in your team, right? So you're trying to complement your skill sets. How have students that use your services figured out how to network? How have they reached out to find other founders who have complementary skills? And then how do they engage potential investors or even just ask for advice? So could you explain to us how you try to help students and founders strengthen their networking muscle and skills?
Sure. Okay, well, as we said before, the networks here are totally important for us. This is a great asset to make them growth. It's like the social capital that we have found that is great to foster that development. So to the students and also entrepreneurs that maybe are alumni or even professors, the different kind of stakeholders that we support here, we not just build the community, but also we keep it alive because it's really important to do it because you know that a relationship, a contact can keep warm for a while. but then year gets cold and that's it. So the idea here is try to focus on give value to different kind of activities. We have not just the typical cocktail or meeting with wine. No, we try to build different kind of activities, like for example, peer mentoring sessions. We have built these kind of activities where the entrepreneurs can be really open-minded and transmit and tell about their fails, their successes to other people that are actually facing the kind of the same realities. So it's great for them because they see through the other people what they're trying to challenge, or well, to success into a challenge. So that's one of the connections that we do. Of course, always where when our entrepreneurs finish a process like a PEMP, that is a program of pre-acceleration that we have, they start to be a part of a community where they receive different kind of calls of contests, not just here in Colombia, but also in other countries. They have contact with different kind of investors or other universities in order to keep developing their journey. So we try not just to keep the progress here at the university like a hub that is closed, but also open it, open the reach in order to foster that kind of connections. We say that it's not just like activity that is a transaction. It goes beyond of that. So the idea is engage, try to give them value more than the training sessions, is to connect in the relationship that could be really sustainable through times. So that's the idea.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm going to ask Claire to give one example and Rodrigo after to give a different example. So when you're trying to network and reach out and build resources, Claire, could you give us a positive example, right? So working with entrepreneurs at your center, something you've seen students do or something that you help founders get better at, which is important for networking. And then Rodrigo, just so you can think about this, what are some counter examples? So what are some mistakes that you have seen in terms of networking that can, create problems or make it even less likely that someone is going to answer your cold call or give you funding when you reach out? So Claire, if we could start with you and the positive example, that would be great.
Absolutely. So we teach this to all of our students, whether they are freshmen new on campus or whether they have graduated into our incubator and they're part of that intentional community. And that is treat networking as relationship building and not as a transaction. It is not always about what you can get out of it that you see the value of right now. It is really about building that network for the future of people who genuinely believe in you. And even if they are not in a position to directly help you, they may know other people who are. They can help guide your growth, even if they cannot give you money to fund it right now. And so that key advice is really treat networking like relationship building. Share your progress, ask thoughtful questions, and look for ways to contribute to others as well. Again, those folks in our incubator, those folks through the Veal Institute, et cetera, we're always giving back to each other. We're being very intentional and very dynamic about it. We find that the strongest opportunities really emerge when founders approach networks as communities and not just as resources. And so you can learn something new from everybody, even if they seem completely different and completely unrelated. Don't be afraid to reach out to them. Be humble when you do. Do not think you know everything or have every solution. And as you grow, continue to be a mentor to those who come after you.
Excellent. Thank you, Claire. Então, Rodrigo, eu estou te dando assim o trabalho difícil de falar do
Rodrigo, now you have the most difficult task, the counterexample. But it's something that is important when things go bad, not when things are doing well. So something go wrong, something is broken, and you need to understand what happened. That's when we learn. And another thing is, you never forget your mistakes. the real mistakes that you made, but they are costly. So it's important to learn from other people's mistakes. So help us understand a little bit other people's mistake. It's very difficult to give an example, the counter example, as you said. But I think that at this in early stages, the greatest challenge is to listen more. And sometimes relationship is very important. But what is mandatory is to figure out the right problem and develop a good solution. So relationship and building a network is very important, but it couldn't arise from it should go together with the MVP, the most valued problem. So sometimes people get lost with relationships and networking in this effort to develop relationship and funding, and the business cannot get out of the paper. So because the more you talk to people, more input you're going to receive. And sometimes, if you don't know how to filter the inputs, you become like a malfunctioning compass. I mean, I got this contact who gave me this idea, the other gave me another idea, the investor gave me another idea. We had entrepreneurs at very early stage with that are not very mature, because that's the ecosystem of a university. And then sometimes they just get lost in a bunch of advices that they've received. So that's a reality that we see more often than not. And our suggestion is keep your head down and work on your MVP. If you have something more concrete to validate with a client, then that's okay. So then this ability to have this network, it's going to help you to get to potential clients that are going to validate your product. We work that in different ways. Okay, there is a network of mentors who are very generous, and they talk with the students and help them to expand this network with more focused mentors in a certain business. And we try to not only develop this competence of building a network of relationships and looking at from the point of view of building a community. This relationship cannot be transactional, otherwise it's not long lasting. And usually we try to get some entrepreneurs and students and that are still in early stages to events where we have entrepreneurs with more mature business, that they're being exposed to investors or companies. For example, a demo day. Those on early stages, they follow the rest. They have pitch night for investors. So those who go to a pitch night with investors, they already have a better developed product. The younger ones, they go there to learn. They had the opportunity to experience this situation, and that creates an inspiration and some baggage, so they can do that when their businesses are a little bit more advanced. But just to reinforce that there's this danger of focusing on your network and then have too many inputs, too many opinions all over the place, and diverging opinions, and then the entrepreneur don't know what to do with that, because they are still very immature, in a very early stage of their business. Perfect. Something that I would like to exchange, to talk about some of the challenges that exist for the innovation hubs, for the entrepreneurship centers, because something that we sometimes forget is that my advice is always think about the problems, the challenges, and the point of view of the other. In terms of entrepreneurship, we talk about understanding the problem before falling in love with a solution. So it's important that this entrepreneur or innovation hubs is not easy to build. It's very broad. They are inside a university. From my experience, sometimes the business has a strong connection or a strong link with engineer or any other area. That's very positive that you can have. But there are also problems. How are you going to fund this center or this hub? So from this part, I want you to give me some context. So I'm going to switch to English because that's going to Claire.
I think, if I'm not wrong, the Think Box has been around for about 10 years. There are definitely challenges for all centers to get started at different phases. So these are entrepreneurial ventures themselves. And if you could share a little bit some of the challenges, I know that you have significant experience before getting to the Think Box when you were doing similar work. So you could draw on that as well. But what are some of the challenges that are faced for innovation hubs within universities?
Sure. I would say one of our challenges at ThinkBox, and you're right, we've been in our current location for 10 years. We're a little older than that in a prior location, a smaller form factor, has been just remembering that we are participating in an iterative process as well. We are also constantly improving. When we opened in this new building, 7 floors, we opened a few floors at a time. We did not pretend to have all of the answers and to open in one sort of unit with all 7 stories. We opened a handful of floors at a time and tested what worked well for our users. What did they need? We made changes, and then we would open another floor and we would do the same thing again. And so we really led by example that you're never going to get it right the first time. You might never get it fully right at all. And as long as you're constantly adapting and constantly changing for your audience, that is what is needed. So we've had various missteps in rolling out technologies, in staffing transitions when one person holds so much legacy knowledge and then leaves for a new opportunity. We've had challenges, of course, in just funding all of the different initiatives that we want to put forward, although we've been very privileged to have wonderful support from the university. I think the lesson for students here is really that progress is rarely, if ever, linear. Setbacks are part of the process. And what matters is resilience and transparency with your users and iteration. And so if something doesn't work, analyze that outcome, figure out with your audience what didn't work and what they needed instead, and learn from others who are doing similar things. We are part of a network of international maker spaces and innovation centers, and we go to conferences and we learn from each other's mistakes and not just each other's successes. And that helps us stand on each other's shoulders instead of each other's feet. We're not just replicating something, we are all growing together. That speaks back to helping the people who come after you and hoping the people who come before you help you too. And so really, as entrepreneurs, expect ups and downs, view them as opportunities to refine and grow stronger, and never stop growing, never move out of that growth mindset.
Great. Thank you, Claire. Rodrigo, agora é sua vez, mesma pergunta.
Rodrigo, your turn, same question. And I'm looking at the time. We still have 20 minutes, and I want to give some time for the Q&A session. So I'm going to go into a lightning round, same question, challenges. And if you want to share a failure or a difficulty that you faced, feel free. I think that The early stages, that's where we work mainly, is one of the most difficult stages because it's not very attractive for investors. So not everybody have the ability to fund early stages. The entrepreneur, despite having the school investment in the infrastructure, well, we have all the infrastructure, but they will go through this process trying to, at the same time that he's trying to be a trainee in a company. So it's a choice, and it's happened at the early stages of their professional lives. Okay, so and all our students are facing that. So we have another challenge that come to mind, that it's how we can encourage this and connect with our curricula, because many things that we do in our innovation hub, they are practical, but we also need to have the background. The connection with the curriculum is very important, and that's challenging as well. It's very challenging because encouraging in the classroom is one thing. I go to the class, I learn, I take my test, and pass or fail. In real world, when you're creating the solution, it's you have to get your hands dirty, and this thing must to have a perfect match. So this curriculum integration is very important and is very challenging from my point of view. And finally, how do we create incentives so that doing that will bring some kind of reward for those who are getting involved and the more intensively, those who decide to follow the process, get involved, invest time, energy. Yeah. So they need to have some sort of reward. So this is also part of our challenge. So we have to create rewards, start some sort of gamification. We do some trainings that we do to inspire and also acknowledge the efforts. So, and that's very challenging because it's never enough, never enough. We do, but there's always something else that we can add. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Now I'm gonna put together two questions. I'm gonna start with Hamilton and Carolina because I see that we have many good questions from our audience. So the two topics, the economic impact and thinking further, thinking about the future. Hamilton,
what's the economic impact of your entrepreneurship center? And as you look forward, what are your hopes for it in the months and years ahead?
Yeah, we in the center, we believe the entrepreneurship is a catalyst for transform and boost growth. A simple but compelling example is that last year, Forbes magazine in Colombia published an article describing the 100 most important startups in 2024. Yeah, and for these 150% have a founder who is former student for our university. That is a simple example, but a strong and powerful example because these numbers are a result for our hard work, and we are proud of it. And that's why we keep working and learning and fostering different initiatives to give value and the different stakeholders and grow this number. And we try to this year is not only 50%, but 70% or 8% in the country founders former here in the university. That is great for us, and we thinking is a positive impact. This result in the business model because the impact is not only for the economic, for the founders, it's for the entire society. The entire society grow with this kind of venture ideas in the market.
Great. Thank you, Hamilton. Carolina, I'm not sure if you have anything to add. That was a great answer.
Yes, just to add, the impact, the economic impact, of course, is translated into the employment, the quantity of the employees that the entrepreneurship are creating. Actually, Rappi is an example of that. From their founders, other founders have created another startups. Here in Colombia is called it Rappi Mafia, or now is kind of Rappi Magia, like magic of Rappi. And the idea is that the talent, that DNA from these entrepreneurs goes beyond from that startup. So they are trying to create or spin-offs or other ideas from that kind of experience at the value that they absorb from their experiences. So it's great to know that the startups is like the new economic booster for the economics. And of course, here in emerging markets, I think that makes a lot the difference to keep growing as countries.
Great, and thank you. And Claire, just your short answer on economic impact and looking ahead.
Absolutely. So the entrepreneurs who have gotten their start at ThinkBox, to our knowledge, have collectively raised over $400 million to support their ventures. And that's small scale, a few thousand here and there, and it's large scale. We have one that has over 200 million just to their name. I would say that that's not the only economic impact, though. As others have said, it is learning to bring that entrepreneurial mindset to other industries, whether you are a worker still learning or whether you're launching something new. It has created, just from those startups here, almost 100 new jobs, many of which have gone to our students and alumni. And just very recently, about 2 weeks ago, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, an organization here that recognizes entrepreneurship in Northeastern Ohio, had their Best of Tech Awards. It's a list every year that acknowledges the early stage startups that are really going somewhere. There were 23 honorees on that list in the early stage tech startup category. Of those 23, 5 of them got their start at ThinkBox. And so the economic impact of that, and they're knowing each other, they're being part of that same network, they're mentoring each other, they're going out into the world and creating new jobs and new opportunities and new mentorship models for those who come after them as well.
Thanks, Claire. Então, eu estou aqui olhando para as perguntas que estão
Now
vindo
I'm
da
looking at the
plateia.
questions that I have from the audience. I'd like to thank you so much. I'm going to group them that follow the same line. One topic that's been repeated here, João Albuquerque asking about AI, if it can be product differentiation or uniqueness. If you have other questions about AI, question is if it's recommended to test the feasibility of an idea using AI. So the buzzword and money is going after the startup on AI. I'd like to listen to some comments from you. Let's start with Rodrigo, but it's open to all of you about this issue of the use of AI and comments about technology, the technology that is more important, what is trendy right now, that you have money looking for this this sort of venture. Rodrigo can start. I think that it's important for a business. I think I've said that before in the beginning of this conversation, that a business should be born with technology that is robust and up to date. One of the entrepreneurs that we have in our fellowship that is creating a business, a model, in a platform model, and it was based on this logic of connecting doctors with diagnostics. My first conversation with him, I said, okay, you should think that part of what you're thinking about doing from this connection could be treated with AI. So the connection is necessary. It's just a matter of clinical analysis. So Brazil is a huge country geographically. So if you have a blood test, you have the connection with the best interpreter of this blood test. You can have good AI parameters that can have a very good first analysis. And then, if it's necessary, to connect with an expert. So you leave Uber model, that's the Uber model, the Uberization. It's a platform where someone has a service and someone wants to buy the service and you do this connection. That is a model of a previous decade. Today, when you have the possibility of add AI, which recommend to add AI so that the business is born more contemporary, more up to date. And that follows the same path for other technologies. And I think it's important. But the question about validating a business model, validating a value proposal with AI, I think it's questionable. I'm not sure. I cannot give you an answer. What kind of bias could happen? Nothing replaces the contact with your client. And I think that is what we still recommend. Innovation process with humans in the center. So understanding this relationship and everything. So we can have support from AI, of course, to do the first screening, understanding the problem that you want to solve. But I do believe that it's important to validate with the user conversations, understanding the reactions, active listening. And I think AI still cannot replace. But I think it's a great question. And I believe that AI can support the business that way. I'm going to add another aspect. If someone else wants to address this AI issue, feel free. But I have a question here that I think is very cool because you have people from different places in the world. So we have Marcia Bag is asking from the state of Belo Horizonte. It's a state in the center of Brazil. It's not where you have the money like São Paulo. So the question has to do with how can I do what should I do as an entrepreneur to have access of funding, and how can I reach potential investors considering my geographic location, which is not in the center of where the money is. I'm going to start with Milton and Carolina because I don't know much about Colombia, but I think you have some trends like Bogota. Maybe, I don't know if you have other countries. We have São Paulo, the economic center. And then in the US, we have the Silicon Valley, New York, and Case Western is in the state of Ohio. So I'm going to start with Hamilton and Carolina to explain a little bit how it goes in Colombia. And then ask Claire, how can I reach investors? How does that happen? How we do that in Ohio, which is not the money center of the country. And then go back to Rodrigo, going back to Brazil to really address Marcia's question. How can I reach investors in Brazil if I'm not in São Paulo? Hamilton and Carolina, please.
Here in Colombia, in the entrepreneurial process for the investment, it's a small economy. It's a few stakeholders for this. For example, our government is not the perfect allies for entrepreneurship. That is really difficult to access a credit for the government in the country, and we need to try to grow with a simple path. First, family, full and friends. That is the first step. ever here in Colombia, and try to the hubs in the universities have for example, it's easier to access to angel investors for the early stage steps, and then to the venture capital or that big funds to try to invest. But the first time is better to help to the universities and another accelerators or something like that to connect your idea, your value proposition to the investors.
Carolina, could you just give us a brief idea of how concentrated investment wealth is in Colombia? How much is in Bogota? How much is in other cities, more or less?
Yes, we have actually the two cities. It's Bogota and Medellin. That's like the principal cities here in Colombia that are fostering entrepreneurship here. Is kind of growing in the coast, but it's more concentrated in Bogota and Medellin. That's why actually we have here an event that is really famous at the country that is called Estarco. And this is like a event that is similar in Brazil to Summit Rio, Web Summit Rio. So it's that kind of event. So there's like a spot where the investors comes to explore the different kind of ideas, but always have been here in Medellin and in Bogota. But what Hamilton said is true. Actually, it's easier to find the investment from investors from other countries than in Colombia. So that's why we are trying to focus a lot on biggest alliances, not just here in Colombia, but also actually there's a few ventures that actually is come from the Asia. I think that is Asia or Arab countries. Sorry, yes. And of course, we have been working a lot with the States, but as you already know, the crisis here is kind of it's not easy. We before had the USAID help, but right now that doesn't exist anymore. So we're trying to keep, like Hamilton said, building another kind of practical or easier spot that maybe could give more yes, easier access to different kind of capitals.
Great. So Claire, switching to you, and you put something in our comments. Maybe you could touch on the AI comment that you made there, and then also just share your thoughts on, a person in, obviously in a different context in Minas Gerais in Brazil, but asking, how do I access something when I'm, not in the top three, finance cities or funding cities?
Sure. I'll try to do both those rapid fire. I know we're tight on time. First, AI. I don't think you have to use AI in your product, but I do encourage you to use AI in your process. Use it as a model to train with. So challenge it to be your biggest critic. Pitch your idea to it, pitch your presentation to it, and let it show you where you need to improve. It can give you some valid feedback that is easier to receive, I think, from a robot than it is from a human. And it'll help you be better prepared to receive it from a human than eventually when you do make an investor pitch. And in terms of making investor pitches, I would say 3 key takeaways come to mind. One is that networks over geography. I know Carolina, for example, mentioned this. Everything does not have to be as local as it once was. And so there are a lot of online and digital opportunities for things like pitch sessions, even accelerators, demo days, etc. Network online if you can't easily do so in person with your aspirational funders there. Leverage your ecosystem, comes back to networking, but also look for where there are those opportunities for growth and those real world problems in your locale. So Cleveland, we are not Silicon Valley, we are not New York City, but we do have a lot to offer. And our sector strengths include manufacturing and healthcare. We have a lot of material science, and there's constant desire for innovation in those veins. Even if that is not what you want to go into, there are lessons that you can learn from those folks, and their networks may be broader than yours. They may see a need in one of their supply chains, for example, or in their clientele that they don't meet, but that they know needs to be met. So look for those sort of tangential opportunities too. And then number 3 is just establishing traction. So it is so hard to sell an idea. Absolutely. If you can get a single cardboard prototype of something just to showcase what you're imagining at a very, very low level to start with. If you can get 1 client, 2 clients, as again, my colleagues have said here today, show somebody that you can succeed on that micro scale, that there is a real demand for what you're doing, get a testimonial and use that to help tell your story. It'll go really far.
Thank you, Claire. Rodrigo, eu vou passar para você, mas também em função
Now,
do tempo, eu gostaria de
Rodrigo, to you, but I also want to have your question about the Minas Gerais story in one single sentence. One, I took a class that is, what is your one sentence? So to close, I'm going to get one sentence from each one of you, like an advice. So, Rodrigo, well, you have 1 minute to address the geography issue and then your single sentence. I would add that looking at Brazil, we have PP FAPAS, which is a line of funding from the government to startup that's not broadly accessed. It's not like a huge thing. It's seed money, 300. I mean, not a lot of money, but you have Sebrae, who is a partner of these funding lines of funding, and they can help the entrepreneur come access this line of credit of funding, better said. But when you have a product and you manage to prove or to have a valuation, then you start to be ready to access angel investors network. We have angels in Brazil that are very powerful. We have Inspire angels, Harvard angels, MIT angels. So there's a network of angel investors. And right now you need to have a business with a valuation. Even the angel wants to know how much it's worth. But Sebrae is one, and an online event that Claire mentioned. It's very important because you go there and you show your business and the investors are going around. But there's the right time to do that, when you are ready to receive this first check. And a single sentence, I would say, go ahead.
Obrigado, Rodrigo. Carolina, sua frase.
Or go for it, better said. Carolina, yours.
Would say, or my advice would say, start local and then go global. And that goes not just from the idea, because here we try to foster that mindset, that growth mindset actually, that is, okay, maybe that solution that I'm creating with my idea, it's the solution for someone in Pakistan. I don't know. Right now, we are so connected that we have a lot of similarities into the culture, the problems that we have as a society. So I think that the entrepreneurship could be the solution to try to solve that. And of course, in the mindset that you have to build in order to pitch in different kind of countries and different kind of environments. So I think that mindset has to be an asset, and a really important asset to the entrepreneurs.
Obrigado. Thank you. Hamilton, uma frase.
Don't worry too much if you don't have the solution or the big solution for your problem today. Learn and work, and perhaps you will find it tomorrow.
Thank you. And Claire.
Those are hard to follow. Mine is short, but might be hard to translate. And it is that everything is figure outable. You might think that it's not. It might feel insurmountable today or tomorrow or even in the next year, but it isn't. Everything is figure outable with the right team, the right time, and the right patience.
Dá para dar um jeito. Seria a tradução que eu daria para isso aí. Então, a minha última frase.
The translation will be, you can manage, basically. So after this event, I'd like to close the event. I'd like to thank you all. And my sentence is, how can I help? I want to help, because sometimes people dedicate their time. You who are the participants, you guys are speakers because you are here to help. So I thank you so much for your presence. The guests, and my sentence will be, how can I help? Because it's crucial to build networks and be successful and be able to reach the ideas that are feasible to make a business grow. So thank you so much, and see you.